Many thanks for still staying with us. This is still New Day on Signature TV. Well, Professor Micheal Ndinechi, a professor and senior lecturer, electronic engineering, joins us via Zoom to discuss science, technology, engineering, mathematics, culture, and the future of Nigeria. Good morning, Professor. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
All right. So, Professor, could you explain to us the acronym STEM? Well, we understand it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. However, these courses are not alien to us. We have been, it's been there in the school's curriculum for as long as we can remember. Well, how come there's a coinage that selects these four disciplines and, puts them together? Explain to us really what STEM means, in simple English.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I apologize for being few minutes late in joining. Yes, STEM, as it is called, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is a global concept that encompasses the processes of critical thinking, analysis, and collaboration that enables students to integrate processes and concepts into real life. In other words, STEM is supposed to expose STEM students in articulating the concept of using what they have to solve real life problems. That is the global concept of STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you.
All right, Prof. There's another acronym that is, I guess, related to STEM, which is TEAM. There's an additional A that stands for arts, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. What are the relationships between these two, for lack of a better word, you know,
Yeah,
areas, of endeavor or study? What's the difference between STEM and STEAM?
yes. The STEM is a global concept which, has the mindset that sciences, technology, engineering, which is empowered by knowledge in mathematics, will solve all the problems. But with time, you see that if you have all the sciences without the human aspect of it, you may not go very far as a person. So that art part of it came into being, or being part of it, because the concept has seen that only science, technology, engineering, and mathematics cannot really make somebody a whole human being without some aspects of, arts or human, what we call humanity. So that is where the STEAM, emanated from. Don't know whether I've made the point. No. So
All
arts
right.
have to be added to the STEM, and that arts here means humanities or courses in humanities. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. But given your experience in the academic space, how well has this STEAM and STEM education, how well has it been inculcated into the school's curriculum, across the different levels of education? Has it really been accepted, and has it been, well incorporated into the school's curriculum, or is it still an extracurricular activity?
No, it is already, in the school curriculum. But the thing is that our students still shy away from STEM courses. See, the school curriculum is like having a clear-cut demarcation between sciences and arts. So if you get to our secondary school, you see people saying that they are doing sciences or they are doing arts. The two has not really been married together. It is of recent
I know they hear the
that
man. I need to hear him.
you are not hearing me, sir.
I'm not hearing it now.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Um,
No, I'm continuing.
okay,
I'm
Prof.
continuing. I'm saying that
Let's
the
assume that STEAM and STEM, let's assume we have come to that point where students are willing to take it on as courses and they have accepted it based on probably awareness drives and things like that. How well, given our peculiarity in Africa and of course in Nigeria, because the background to education is that you are taught things that can directly impact your environment. How well, given the fact that we are not so advanced in technology, how well do you think education in STEAM and STEM can help with the challenges we have as a country, as a nation in Nigeria and in Africa?
yes, I feel that STEM will definitely be the way to go because you see, the world is a global village, and we are in an era known as the knowledge era and digital economy era. And you cannot really be very good in digital concepts without imbibing the culture of STEM. If you look around now, you see that there are many businesses online, which is the digital economy we are talking about. You see fintech companies, you see developments in all manner of electronics. So now, people that develop these technologies are people that are STEM oriented. But people that come up with a concept may not really be, STEM inclined people, but people that, identify human problems. So they could be people from the arts section. They identify these, problems and to think of how to, develop it and get people benefit from it. Then they move it to, the science side to be able to develop them. So you see that the two must work hand in hand to be able to, move Nigeria forward. For instance, Nigeria, we must have to develop what is called microelectronics and embedded system. When you have embedded system, then a financial expert can, brief an engineer, a scientist, on how to develop an app so that this app will help people to make their payments. And that is why you are seeing some, things like money point or virtual banks that you don't know where the banks are, but you can deposit your money. It's actually somebody who has the knowledge of banking, which in its own is a core art that makes or briefs a science inclined person to be able to develop an app so that people can use it, store their money in the cloud without knowing where the physical bank is, and get back their money anytime they want it. So the STEM and STEAM must be put into, I would say, galvanized in the secondary school and at the university level, so that as people advance in their studies, they will know, what am I good at? If you pursue what you are good at, you are likely to be more useful to the nation than when you are not very good in sciences, but because somebody wants you to be an engineer, he forces you into sciences. And at the end of the day, you will not make, a very good impact in that area. So we believe that STEM and STEAM they are the way to go in Nigeria, because Nigeria is part of the world and the world is in the digital economy era. Everybody, to be successful, must fit into the digital economy era, which is powered by STEM and STEAM. Thank you.
All right, but there's something you talked about that I want us to, point out. You mentioned maybe parents maybe insisting that their children would read, science-related courses. And there's been this advocacy that you try and find out where the interest of your child lies before you can actually channel the child towards the, the course that is good for that child. But with STEM, with advocacy for STEM, because looking at, the acronym is science, is technology, is engineering, and it's mathematics, and these are all science-based courses. Now, don't you think it's also playing towards that era where parents force their children thinking that all science courses are better than all art, courses? So what's the balance here with STEM advocacy?
Yes. Well, like you pointed out, our curriculum seems to have a clear-cut demarcation between sciences and arts. That is why if you enter a typical secondary school, you see a classroom. They say, this classroom is for arts people. Then this classroom is for science people. My thinking is that it should not be so. People or children should be allowed to develop. As they develop, you see where their interest lies. And well, some schools are doing it now. Even if you are a science side, you must pick at least 2 or 3 arts courses to join, so that as they leave the secondary school, they will be able to now decide and be flexible in choosing a course that will benefit them. Also, our curriculum is trying at the university level to include entrepreneurship, even though it has not been developed to the level I will like it to be as a person. But I've gone to some universities that incorporate entrepreneurship in all their courses, in the sense that every year a student, irrespective of whether the person is in the humanitarian courses or humanities or in the sciences, must do some kind of certification courses. And when I made inquiries, I found out that some people we do so well, people in maybe arts, we do so well in some science certifications that at that university level they tend to change to the sciences. So the curriculum itself, we have to be restructured more a bit. In the university system now, we have what we call the CC called Curriculum Minimum Academic Standard. Now, if you look at that CC for my course, for instance, you see that it doesn't accommodate anything outside that core course. And I believe that that is the same for other courses. And it is time we start, looking at those curriculum to make sure that somebody is not rigidly science or rigidly arts. There must be a meeting point to enable students to develop as a whole being. To me, that is the way to go. So we need to work more on our curriculum as a country, knowing fully well that what grows the economy now is knowledge and no longer, physical things. Knowledge is what grows people. Now, you see people who can sit in their homes working and making earnings, making a living because of the knowledge they have in them, not necessarily because of the physical thing they have. So, in this knowledge era, we must restructure our curriculum to fit into the global knowledge era. Thank you.
All right, so it seems as though we are circling back to my former question, and I agree with you completely that the curriculum is a little bit outdated and needs a little bit of restructuring. However, let us focus on STEM. It seems as though STEM is something that was just packaged by the West and shipped down to Africa, regardless of our peculiarities. Now, you mentioned something interesting and you said entrepreneurship should be inculcated, and I agree with you. Now, do you think we are just taking this concept hook, line, and sinker without trying to tweak it a little to suit our peculiarities? You mentioned entrepreneurship. If you ask me, I would mention history because we're talking about STEM and culture and future of Nigeria. So do you think we are taking this thing hook, line, and sinker without adding our own flavor to ensure that it suits, our own hunger and thirst in the country? So I want you to speak to that. Should we look at STEM and say, okay, science, technology, maybe entrepreneurship, history, and mathematics, and that will be for us as African, consumers of education? What are your thoughts?
Okay, now, see, what is happening is that, you see, when bodies like United Nations, World Bank, and all this develop a concept, they base their concept on their studies in developed countries and start putting money in that concept. And the African countries will just accept that in order to benefit from the money that the Western world, is giving to support that concept. Yes, economically, well, yes, But in the real sense is that that STEM was not really developed to benefit Africa per se. It was developed to benefit the West, and because it has to be a global concept, Africa feeling whether it is fitting their own, standard or not. So, if you look in the past, there is something like Step B project. Um, it's science, technology, education, post-basic. And a lot of money was pumped into it by the Western world. And Nigeria accepted it like that and were benefited from the fund. But if you look at that, post-Step B project, there is nothing on ground to show that between this time and this time, such amount of money came in into the African nation to develop science, technology, education, post-basic. But it has come and that concept has ended. And the reason is this: African nations, with particular reference to Nigeria, had no input in the concept as to fit in the people of Nigeria. So my take is that when such concepts are developed and pushed in, Nigeria as a country will sit down, look at it, and develop our own version of that concept so that we will begin to reap the benefits of that. So, like you said, it was sent to us and we accepted it line, hook, sinker. The essence is for us to just benefit from the funding that comes with it. But in the real sense, it may not be exactly what we want. So in one of the papers I published in the past on this STEM education, I had to, talk of how we will modify this STEM to, help us as a country to move forward and create, enabling environment for growth. So maybe I will make that paper available to you at the end of the day. Thank you.
Absolutely, Prof. That will be really nice if I can have a copy of that paper. All right, so still
You
moving
will.
on. You talked about restructuring of the curriculum and trying to tweak some of these concepts to suit our own climate. Now, what are the steps that we need to take as a nation, towards curriculum restructuring or restructuring of just STEM? It's always easier to take it in bits than holistically. So if it's going to be difficult taking it holistically, let's just concentrate on STEM. What are the steps and what are the agencies? What are those agencies that are responsible to ensuring that the STEM concept is actually restructured? Does it need legislation? Does it need advocacy? Does it need lobbying? What are the steps that we need to take to ensure that we work towards making this thing suitable for our children and, of course, for Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. I don't think it will require lobbying or legislating for it again. The reason is that we already have, bodies like NICO in Nigeria, like WAEC. We also have our NBTE, National Board for Technical Education. We have our NUC. So these are already established bodies. What they need to do is not to, see themselves as know it all. They need to, involve stakeholders in mapping out the way to go. There is a difference between inviting me as a professor to probably NBTE and tell me to develop course content for a course that is already in existence. But there should be a meeting of stakeholders that will say, if somebody is studying banking and finance in Nigeria, what are the critical science aspects that this person must be acquainted with to be able to perform excellently well in the profession of banking and finance? In that case, it will not only be to invite bankers to develop the curriculum, it will involve inviting computer scientists to know this banker, what aspect of cloud computing must he be conversant with? What aspect of cyber security must he be conversant with to be able to move the banking sector forward? In that case, it will involve inviting stakeholders from all aspects and not just inviting bankers to develop curriculum for bankers. So, you see, it doesn't need legislating for it, as I said, because the bodies are already there. It is for these bodies to be, forward thinking, to know that in the next 5, 10 years, where will the banking sector be? I'm using banking sector as example. Likewise, any other sector. Where will this sector be in the next 10 years? What do we need to, make the people that will be in charge of this sector in 10 years be up to what it should be? You see, that is what is called sustainable development. It is a development you will do now, and it will not infringe on the developments the people in future will do. So it doesn't require any other form than the people in charge of NUC, NBTE, NECO, and WEA to really get a stakeholders meeting to brainstorm on what courses should be offered at both secondary and tertiary education to fit and to develop the people in the next 5 years, so that in future, when those people be at the helm of affairs, they will be up to the standard as at that time. So that is basically what is required. Thank you.
All right, Prof. Going by the fact that we've established that STEM as it is not the best fit for Nigeria, what are
It
some
is
of the
not. I
gaps
want to say it categorically, it is not.
that are actually gaps that have militated against the uptake or the buying of students and of course institutions, towards STEM? Because you notice in secondary schools, the practical chemistry, biology, physics, all those practical experiments 10 years ago, they are still the very same experiments that children take today in their external exams. Now, if there are no challenges, I don't think this should have been an issue if STEM was adequately bought into. So what are some of the challenges that that are on ground that is militating against the buying, of schools into this STEM education?
Okay, I will tell you, I know of one challenge, and that challenge is inadequate manpower. For instance, you go to a secondary school where one teacher is in charge of chemistry, physics, biology, and you expect this one teacher to deliver high quality content teaching to the students. It will not serve well. Some students will, prefer to opt out and go to arts, because in the arts section we have so many teachers. Of course, I know a school, or I will say a man, who goes from one secondary school to the other teaching mathematics, because those schools don't have a mathematics teacher. So he becomes a freelance mathematics teacher. Immediately he leaves that class, he will not have contact with the students again until the following week, probably the day he will come again. So you see that the main challenge facing this science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education is non-availability of enough manpower to handle that. And to solve that problem, you see that um, more people should be, maybe scholarship, maybe whatever incentive, to study these courses to the point that they will be employed at the secondary school level, because we must catch them young. We must catch them young at the secondary school level, where they will, create interest on the students. I know somebody who finally went to university to read mathematics. He was not, good in mathematics, was afraid of mathematics, until the dad found him, a mathematics tutor who comes at home to do maths for him. He developed so much interest in mathematics that he had to go to university to read mathematics.
Wow.
So, sciences are courses that some students are afraid of. I won't know why, but when you really put them through, they become so good and imbibing. So the greatest challenge is not having enough manpower to create awareness and interest at the secondary school level. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. But before we wrap up, in just 1 minute, what are some of maybe one parting shot to encourage students, to encourage the school system in adopting, STEM as the future, and how it can help develop Nigeria, in times to come? Just in a minute.
Okay. First, I will, advise parents to continue to be the advocate for STEM, because as we know it now, most parents want their children to, read sciences so that they can go on to become engineers, doctors, this and that. So, yes, they should continue to be the advocate of that. On the other side, Nigeria as a country must create an enabling environment by, making it that every school must have enough science teachers so that the children will develop awareness and interest at the lower level, more especially if there are small practicals which they can do. For instance, if you get a battery and small wire and bulb, and the child sees that, hey, if you put this wire and battery and bulb like this, there will be electricity. You create a lot of interest and anxiety on that person to start exploring science-based courses. But you notice that in our secondary schools, in our universities, we lack these essential let's say tools to do some practicals to arouse interest of young ones in this area. So schools, maybe through local government, through state government, should acquire enough practical equipment in the science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, courses, so that from even late primary school, they should start having a feeling of what STEM is. When they start, you see that at the secondary level, many of them will buy science courses. At the university level, many of them will also be in the sciences. And when they come out, they form the critical mass which the country needs to propagate in this digital economy era, because the digital economy creates wealth. And when in Igbo parlance say ụmụnna nwezuo ego, ilo na-asị ana. So if you come to a country where more than 50% of the people are making earnings that is enough to keep them living, then crime and social vices will be reduced to the barest minimum. So that is my take on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Micheal Ndinechi. Thank you for your insights, your perspectives. You've been very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you for still staying here with us. New Day continues right after this time out. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.